Every single morning, tens of millions of Americans pull into a fast food drive-thru, convinced they're making a reasonable call. A quick breakfast, something warm, something filling. But here's what nobody tells you. One of the most ordered breakfast combos in the US contains more calories than most people should eat in an entire day. And it's not the one you're thinking of. The answer is going to genuinely shock you. We're ranking 10 of the most popular fast food breakfast items in America, from absolute worst to surprisingly best, based on what they actually do to your body. We're talking calories, saturated fat, sodium, protein quality, and the stuff that goes completely unnoticed on the menu board. Some of these results are going to flip what you think you know. Stay with me because by the end of this, you'll know exactly what to order and what to never touch again the next time you roll up to that drive-through window. But first, how we're ranking these. Before we count down, let's talk about what worst and best actually mean here. Because this isn't just a calorie contest. 5 factors, calories. But in context, because a 400-calorie breakfast that keeps you full for 5 hours is very different from one that has you hungry again in 90 minutes. Saturated fat, the kind that directly drives cardiovascular disease over time. Sodium, wildly underestimated at fast food breakfast, and a major driver of hypertension. Protein quality, lean, usable protein versus fat-soaked processed meat. And overall nutritional value, fiber, vitamins, anything your body can actually use. Everything on this list is real, widely available, and orderable today. Let's get into it. Number 10. McDonald's Big Breakfast with Hotcakes, the worst breakfast item in American fast food. We're starting at the bottom, and I mean the very bottom. The McDonald's Big Breakfast with Hotcakes isn't just the worst fast food breakfast on this list. It might be the worst fast food breakfast item you can order anywhere in the US, full stop. Here's why. This plate comes loaded with scrambled eggs, a sausage patty, hash browns, a biscuit, 3 hotcakes, and a side of syrup and butter. Sounds like a feast, right? That's exactly the problem. The total calorie count lands at 1,340 calories. Let that number sit for a second. The average adult is recommended to eat somewhere between 2,000 and 2,200 calories per day. This one breakfast, before you've even touched lunch or dinner, eats through nearly 65% of that. We haven't even touched the fat yet. It contains 65 grams of total fat. 20 grams of that is saturated fat, which is essentially your entire recommended daily limit for saturated fat in one sitting. The sodium comes in at 2,070 milligrams. The American Heart Association recommends no more than 2,300 milligrams total for an entire day. You're already at 90% before 9 in the morning. Now here's the part nobody talks about. It's not just the quantity, it's the composition. You've got heavily processed sausage, a refined white flour biscuit, deep-fried hash browns, and 3 pancakes doused in syrup. There's almost no fiber. There's no real nutritional density. Your blood sugar is going to spike hard and is going to crash just as hard about 2 hours later. This isn't a breakfast, it's a metabolic event. If you've ordered this before, no judgment. But now you know, never again. Number 9. Hardee's Monster Biscuit. Moving up, or rather barely up, from that disaster, we have Hardee's Monster Biscuit. Hardee's has built an entire identity around excess, and the Monster Biscuit is their most extreme breakfast offering. Inside one buttery, flaky biscuit, you'll find 2 sausage patties, 2 slices of bacon, a slice of ham, and a fried egg. 4 different animal proteins in one breakfast sandwich. The total comes to around 760 calories, 51 grams of fat, including 20 grams of saturated fat, and just under 2,000 milligrams of sodium. Now, compared to McDonald's Big Breakfast with Hotcakes, the calories look almost reasonable. But don't let the number fool you. The issue here is density. You're getting a massive hit of saturated fat from multiple processed meat sources, all wrapped in a biscuit made with refined flour and shortening. There's no protein to fat efficiency here. Most of what you're consuming is processed fat and salt. The one egg in there is doing nothing for you nutritionally when it's surrounded by that much sodium and saturated fat. The Monster Biscuit is calorie efficient in the worst possible way. It's compact destruction. Small item, enormous metabolic cost. Number 8, Burger King. Double Croissan'wich with sausage, egg, and cheese. Burger King's Croissan'wich line is one of the most recognized fast food breakfasts in the country, and the standard version, actually not that bad. But we're talking about the double, with double sausage. Here's where the croissant becomes the villain of the story. A croissant is made by layering butter into pastry dough repeatedly. That's what gives it the flaky, rich texture. It tastes incredible. It is not your friend. That croissant alone delivers a substantial chunk of fat before you've even factored in the two sausage patties and the cheese. The full double croissantage lands at around 750 calories, 47 grams of fat, and approximately 1,400 milligrams of sodium. The problem is what's driving those calories: heavily processed sausage and a pastry shell engineered to taste incredible while delivering virtually zero nutritional value. No fiber, almost no vitamins, high glycemic impact. Compactness is not health. Number 7, Wendy's Breakfast Baconator. If you've ever wondered what happens when a burger chain tries to out-bacon every other fast food chain at breakfast, this is the answer. The Wendy's Breakfast Baconator includes a sausage patty, 6 strips of applewood smoked bacon, a fried egg, American cheese, and Swiss cheese, all on a brioche bun. That's 2 types of pork, 2 types of cheese, and a brioche bun which, like the croissant, is enriched with butter and eggs and has a higher fat content than a standard English muffin. The numbers: 730 calories, 51 grams of fat, 19 of which are saturated, and 1,560 milligrams of sodium. This thing has more fat than items ranked worse than it because the fat is more efficiently packaged. What it lacks in total calories compared to the big breakfast, it makes up for in pure saturated fat density per calorie. And here's the biggest issue. For all that fat and sodium, the protein quality is poor. Most of what you're getting comes from processed bacon and sausage, high in sodium, preservatives, and saturated fat. Compare that to grilled chicken or eggs, and you're getting a completely different protein profile. The Baconator is doing none of you any favors, no matter how good it tastes. We'll get to the item that most people think is terrible but is actually one of the healthiest options on any fast food breakfast menu in just a moment. But first, we need to talk about the next two because they reveal something important about how fast food manipulates your perception of reasonable. Number 6. Jack in the Box Loaded Breakfast Sandwich. Jack in the Box is a West Coast and Southern staple, and their loaded breakfast sandwich is exactly what the name implies. No restraint, no compromise. This one comes on thick Texas toast, which is regular white bread, just cut thick and grilled in butter, and is loaded with bacon, a sausage patty, ham, a fried egg, and 2 slices of American cheese. Sound familiar? It's essentially the same philosophy as the Hardee's Monster Biscuit, just on different bread. The damage: around 760 calories, 45 grams of fat, and approximately 1,590 milligrams of sodium. The sodium is particularly brutal here. Thick Texas toast has more surface area than a biscuit, which means more butter absorption. You're getting excess fat from the bread itself before you even factor in the 3 different meat proteins stacked inside. What saves it from ranking lower is one thing. The portion of fried egg is slightly more prominent than in some of the items above it, which means there's a bit more whole food protein in the mix. That's a thin silver lining, but in a ranking this competitive for the bottom spots, it counts. Number 5. Sonic SuperSonic Breakfast Burrito. Now we cross an important threshold. From here up, the items still have real problems done in there, but they start showing glimpses of nutritional awareness, or at least slightly more balanced construction. Sonic's SuperSonic Breakfast Burrito at the large size comes in at around 700 calories, 41 grams of fat, and approximately 1,400 milligrams of sodium. Still very high across the board. But here's what separates it from the bottom 4. It contains diced green peppers and onions. That sounds like a small detail. It isn't. In a ranking full of items where the only ingredients are meat, cheese, bread, and fat, actual vegetables matter, even in small amounts. Fiber slows digestion and moderates the blood sugar spike from refined carbs. Sonic chose to include them. That's why it's ranked above the bottom 4. Number 4, Taco Bell Grande Scrambler Burrito. Taco Bell at breakfast is an underrated conversation. People sleep on it. But the Grande Scrambler Burrito tells a more interesting story than most give it credit for. It comes in at approximately 680 calories, around 36 grams of fat, and 1,430 milligrams of sodium. What makes it interesting is the composition: eggs, a potato filling, sausage crumble, cheddar, and sour cream. The potato filling is the key. It adds a small but meaningful amount of fiber and potassium, two nutrients almost entirely absent from every item ranked below it. Here's the pattern interrupt in this entire ranking. Taco Bell, the chain most people assume is nutritional garbage, is outranking Wendy's, Burger King, Jack in the Box, and Hardee's at breakfast. That says more about how bad most fast food breakfasts are than it says about how good Taco Bell is. Number 3, Dunkin' Egg White and Veggie Flatbread. And now we make a real jump, because from the top 3 onward, we're in completely different nutritional territory. The Dunkin' Egg White and Veggie Flatbread is one of the most under-ordered items at any major fast food chain. People walk into Dunkin', they get a bacon, egg, and cheese on a croissant. They don't even look at the menu. That's a mistake. The Egg White and Veggie Flatbread comes in at approximately 280 calories. That is not a typo. 280. After spending this entire video talking about items in the 700 to 1300 calorie range, that number almost doesn't look real. Fat content is around 9 grams, with only 3.5 grams of saturated fat. Sodium is approximately 690 milligrams, well within a sensible range for a single meal. And you're getting a meaningful serving of egg whites, which deliver clean protein with almost no fat. The veggie component, roasted peppers and spinach, adds fiber, vitamins, and antioxidants that are completely absent from every other item on this list below it. The one knock is total protein, around 13 grams, which is lower than the top 2. If you train or tend to get hungry fast, 13 grams may not hold you. But for caloric efficiency and ingredient quality, nothing below this comes close. And here's the thing most people miss about the top 2 items coming up. They don't just rank well by fast food standards, they rank well by any standard. One of them comes from a chain most nutritionists wouldn't hesitate to recommend. The other comes from a chain that has been feeding America since 1940. The answer is going to reframe everything you thought you knew. Number 2, McDonald's Egg McMuffin. Yes, the Egg McMuffin. The 60-year-old breakfast sandwich that has never stopped being relevant, and with good reason. Here's the nutritional profile: 310 calories, 13 grams of total fat, 5 of which are saturated, 17 grams of protein, 820 milligrams of sodium. For a fast food breakfast, these numbers are remarkable. For any breakfast eaten outside your own kitchen, they're genuinely competitive. The Egg McMuffin was introduced in 1972, and what made it work then still makes it work now. The construction is inherently efficient. It uses a whole cracked egg, not a processed egg patty. That egg is cooked in a ring mold, which is why it fits perfectly on the muffin. And it's a real single egg, which means you're getting the full nutritional benefit. The protein comes from Canadian bacon, which is one of the leanest cured meats available, significantly lower in fat than sausage or regular bacon. The English muffin is a lower fat, lower calorie bread choice compared to a croissant, biscuit, or brioche. Nutritionists have praised the Egg McMuffin consistently for decades. It regularly appears on lists of the best fast food breakfasts from registered dietitians. The protein-to-calorie ratio is solid. The fat content is manageable. The sodium, while not low, is within a reasonable range for a single meal. The reason it ranks second instead of first comes down to one thing. What the number 1 item does with its protein is genuinely exceptional, even by the standards of foods prepared in full kitchens. This is where it gets interesting. Number 1, Chick-fil-A Egg White Grill, the best fast food breakfast in America, 300 calories, 7 grams of fat, 2.5 of which are saturated, 26 grams of protein, 970 milligrams of sodium. Let that protein number sink in. 26 grams of protein from 300 calories with only 7 grams of fat. That is a protein-to-calorie ratio that rivals what you'd find in a carefully constructed meal prep container. And this is a drive-through item. The Egg White Grill sits a grilled chicken breast and a folded egg white on a toasted multigrain English muffin. That's it. No sausage, no bacon, no processed meat of any kind. The protein source is grilled, not fried, Chicken breast, which is one of the leanest, most bioavailable protein sources available. The egg whites add additional high-quality protein with nearly zero fat. The multigrain English muffin contributes a small but meaningful amount of fiber and has a lower glycemic impact than a white flour biscuit or croissant. The whole sandwich is constructed in a way that maximizes satiety per calorie, which means you're going to stay fuller longer with far less blood sugar volatility than anything ranked below it. The only flag on this item is the sodium at 970 milligrams, slightly higher than the Egg McMuffin. That's not nothing, and if you're actively managing hypertension or sodium intake, it's worth noting. But taken as a whole, the nutritional profile of the Egg White Grill is simply in a different class than everything else on this list. Here's the bigger point. Most people pull into Chick-fil-A for breakfast and order the chicken biscuit, which is a good sandwich. But it clocks in at around 470 calories, 23 grams of fat, and over 1,000 milligrams of sodium. The Egg White Grill is sitting right there on the same menu, costs about the same, and is objectively a far better choice by every nutritional metric. The only reason people don't order it is that they don't know it exists. Now you do. Here's what this ranking shows. Most fast food breakfast items, the ones dominating drive-through menu boards, are nutritional disasters. Items 10 through 6 don't just push limits, they demolish them. Extreme sodium, saturated fat, almost no fiber, and calorie loads that could anchor 2 full meals. And these aren't occasional indulgences for most people. They're the default order, multiple times per week. But the top 3 prove something else. Real options exist. Options that deliver solid protein, manageable fat, and reasonable sodium before your day even starts. The Dunkin Egg White Flatbread, the McDonald's Egg McMuffin, the Chick-fil-A Egg White Grill. These aren't compromise orders. They're smart orders. The breakfast you choose at 7 in the morning sets the metabolic tone for your entire day. Make it count. If this changed how you're going to order next time, hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who deserve to know this. And drop a comment below. Which item on this list surprised you the most? I read every single one, and I'm curious where your jaw dropped. You've been rolling with Good to Grub, where the truth about what you're eating is always on the menu.